This video contains harsh language, specifically English. Warning: the following video contains opinions, and they could even be contrary to yours. Please remember that even in the heat of the moment, it's about opinion. If you watch the whole video and you still don't agree with me, well, feel free to sound off in the comments. Just don't be a dick about it. Opinionated mates.
Your license fee pays for dreadful, shoddy fucking journalism that is beyond human comprehension. But then again, if I disagree with it, I'm a bigot. I'll take you through it. An article posted today by the BBC. The BBC, the British fucking Broadcasting Corporation. The BBC just released an article written by Dave Lee, the North American technology reporter who needs to go back to reporting school. An article titled, "At E3, Video Gaming's Bigots Have Lost." Well, first and foremost, that's taking a political stance. I don't know about you, but calling people a bigot because they don't agree with a view you have is pretty fucking intense. But this article goes on to just wow me with how incredibly wrong it is. So okay, let's go through. 4 years ago, a row hit the games industry like an atom bomb. Ooh, shivers down my spine. I didn't know Gamergate had that much of an impact. The treatment of women within both the industry and the games themselves was being scrutinized like never before. It was. And as journalists predicted that gamers are over, an angry and at times vicious movement emerged. Gamergate. Okay. Journalists predicted gamers were over. Journalists worked en masse to release articles at the same time declaring gamers were over. This was no prediction. This was an attack on gamers. And the reason why is because a few weeks prior it had come out that a game developer was sleeping with a games journalist, and that games journalist had given preferable coverage to that game developer. Now, we don't know if that game developer was given preferable coverage because the two of them were having nookie in the bedroom. However, it was something that really should have been fucking disclosed when the article was made, or better yet, the article shouldn't have been fucking written. So all gamers wanted was a little bit of transparency in the gaming media. If you're fucking somebody who's making a game and you're writing an article about it, at least disclose that shit. But apparently, because we were attacking a female game developer who was trying so very hard to make it in the male-dominated world of video games, we were bigots, misogynists, etc. And by the way, throwing around a name like misogynist or bigot is fucking hurtful. Like, it is absolutely fucking hurtful. It is the same level insult as Nazi. If you call someone a Nazi, that's a fucking insult of the highest caliber. But apparently it's fine for people to go around calling people bigots and misogynists, even though they are so incredibly fucking hurtful words. Anyway, where was I? Alright, the preferable coverage for this game developer. So, gamers said, alright, we've got a problem with this. You need to be more transparent. The gaming media thinks, oh shit, we're under attack. What are we gonna do? Let's attack back. So in a little group, in a little email mailing list that they denied existed, games media crafted a narrative. How are we going to make this game developer look victimized? So they came up with the idea of releasing several articles in tandem on several different gaming websites declaring the death of gamers. This is what spawned Gamergate. Not a prediction that the gamer is over. No, they actually attacked gamers en masse. So gamers who are used to fighting against the odds and winning, they didn't take this lying down. It became a game to us. We were fighting against the odds and we were gonna win. And that's why there was so much pushback. It's got nothing to do with the women in the gaming industry. There might be a few bad eggs on the Gamergate side that were assholes, but let me tell you, there were a few bad eggs on the fucking anti-Gamergate side as well. Gamers being called worse than ISIS was fucking bad enough, but there was worse than that. We were on the receiving end too, and it was hurtful. The language used was hurtful. And we didn't run crying under a rock, labeling everyone who disagreed with us bigots. We didn't do that. Supporters of Gamergate would say it was about ethics in games journalism. Well, you understand then, supporters of Gamergate said it was about ethics in games journalism, and it was! But hold on, the way that you put that in quotes means that there's something else here, so let's carry on. But it was quite openly, more often than not, something else. No, it wasn't. It was about ethics in journalism. Women, minorities, and hatred of so-called social justice warriors, the SJWs, as if social justice was something to be avoided. Okay, first off, social justice warriors and social justice are two entirely different things. I have no problem with the existence of social justice. I think that everyone should have an equal opportunity to rise to the top. And the most privileged people in society are the people at the top of giant businesses. The only time you're someone with privilege in this society is when you are born into a business, when you are born into a family business that has been running 300 years and makes shit tons of money. The real privilege in this world is money. Social justice is fine. Wanting equal opportunities for everyone is fine. I have never been against that. However, the reason why social justice warriors are called warriors is because they fight for social justice in a very obtuse and violent way. If you disagree with a social justice warrior, you're a bigot. Wait a second, does that mean this article was written by a social justice warrior? I think it was. It was a row that would go on to consume lives and careers, creating celebrities of the likes of Milo Yiannopoulos as it went. Yeah. There are some people who maybe shouldn't have become celebrities out of Gamergate, you know, like Milo Yiannopoulos, Sargon of Akkad, Brianna Wu. Plenty of people on both the left and the right who perhaps shouldn't have been given a platform through Gamergate, but that's up to personal opinion, which again, as a news article, you shouldn't be providing this opinion. Shoddy journalism. In many respects, Gamergate was a dress rehearsal for what we refer today as the alt-right. Alright, okay, alt-right is an interesting term because I, before, have been referred to by my brother as alt-right. Oh my god, you're so alt-right. You think that a video game about shooting up a school should be allowed on Steam? I'm like, yeah, it should be. Let the market decide. If nobody buys that game and it fails, then the market decides. Decide with your wallet. All games, all books, all media, everything should have a right to exist. And then it's up to the consumer to decide whether or not they want to spend money on it. But apparently, thinking that there should be a school shooting simulator on Steam makes me a member of the alt-right. And alt-right always bothers me as a term, because just as much as there is an alt-right, I believe that there is also an alt-left. And the alt-left is the left that refers to members of the right as the alt-right. The alt-left are the social justice warriors, like the one who wrote this article. Just as much as there is an alt-right, there is an alt-left. And we see the alt-left stronger than ever in media and news positions because the big corporations are pushing a left-leaning agenda. Now again, that's not necessarily a problem. Up until a couple of years ago, I always considered myself a liberal. I thought that people should have more rights and the politicians and the government and the law should have less control. But as I've discovered over the past few years, less control allows more people to act like social justice warriors, to stand up and accuse everyone of bigotry and misogyny and racism and sexism, that perhaps a little more control is necessary just to steer people away from that. But apparently that makes me alt-right. I'd been at E3 in June 2014, just before Gamergate really took hold, and in summing up that year's show, I concluded that the industry still had a problem with women, despite a new momentum and demands for progress. Why does the industry have a problem with women? The show's lowest moment was in learning that that year's new Assassin's Creed game would have 4 playable characters, all of them male. If the story that the game creator is trying to tell requires that the 4 playable characters be male, then that is hardly a fucking problem. That's part of their artistic decision. You are telling the game developer how they should make their game, how they should tell their story. That is not what liberal people do. Liberal people let you decide what story you want to tell. They allow you the freedom to tell a story. Telling people what story they can tell and then claiming to be left makes you alt-left. The following year, 2015, I went back to E3. I was curious to see how the industry would react, yet despite the fire and fury online, it felt as if nothing had happened. Well, maybe. The reason why you felt nothing had changed in 2015 is because the people who are buying the video games are not the same people who are claiming there should be more representation of women in video games. You're seeing this in comics, you're seeing this in movies, alright? The people who are interested in the product, the people who are spending the money, are the people who decide what happens. Solo is bombing in the movie theaters. The Ghostbusters reboot lost a lot of money. Is it because the people who refuse to put money to them are massive man babies who don't like change? No, it's not. I wondered, what were the games companies doing? Were they afraid? Were they conflicted? Had they even been listening? Oh, you can't help but hear. Oh, I'm sure they were hearing. But choosing whether to listen or not is an intellectual decision, and they were making the right decision. A friend in the gaming industry took issue with my view. Games take time, he told me. Let's see where we are in a few years. I don't know, definitely sounds like someone who'd be your friend. Setting a benchmark. E3 2018, and I'm standing in a makeshift wooden town hall erected by Sony for its bombastic PlayStation Showcase event. Sony's biggest franchise is The Last of Us, a PlayStation exclusive, and a title that many consider to be the finest video game ever made. Many is a vague term. I think perhaps there are some people who consider The Last of Us the best video game ever made if they like the same generic third-person shooting over and over and over again, and cutscenes that were obvious. The start of the game, and you're playing as Joel, and you meet your... Wait, you're not even playing as Joel, you're playing as fucking Sarah, right? You're playing as Sarah, the little girl, and my first instinct when the controller was in my hands is, she's gonna die! It was so fucking predictable. The way they made that character so likable. In the first couple of minutes, it was obvious. Hands on the controller, she's gonna die. And guess what? She dies. She gets fucking shot within the first 5-10 minutes of the game. And it is so mind-numbingly obvious. And the problem with The Last of Us is that generic, obvious storytelling continues throughout. To me, The Last of Us is a boring as fuck game. Maybe to some people it is the best game ever made, or one of. But not me. Never me. In the original, you play as Joel. He's escorting Ellie, a teenage girl, through the game. Now, you've deliberately been very vague here, because you could have said through the entire game. But you're being careful there, because you know, if you are the big Last of Us fan that you say you are, you know that there is a good fucking chunk of the original Last of Us where you play as Ellie. That's why you're being deliberately vague there. Because you know there's a huge chunk where you play as Ellie. So the whole game isn't big burly white man protects little poor girl through game. You know it's not entirely like that. In the new game, The Last of Us Part 2, Ellie is the lead, and as the trailer commences, we see her dancing slowly with a woman, her girlfriend, and they exchange a passionate kiss. The crowd cheered, not like excitable schoolboys seeing two girls make out, but like adults who had followed Ellie's story and cared about the outcome. That isn't why they applauded. They applauded because it was a gay kiss. Oh, this isn't at all biased, but okay. I think they were trying to make it clear to people that this is what they're about, said Julian Rizzo-Smith, a gay games journalist from Australia whom I bumped into after the event. You were asking a gay person's opinion on a gay kiss. Did you ask the opinion of a not gay person? Did you ask the opinion of a bigot, as you would say? Then you can't say you did your job as a journalist. You've got to get opinions from everybody. I think it was really setting a benchmark for what their future plans are. It's a perfectly fine reflection of society. If you have a problem that it's the biggest game of the show, that's on you. Julian Rizzo-Smith, I do not have a problem. I think people who automatically say, oh, if you've got a problem, then you're a bigot, are perhaps signaling their virtues a little too hard. Let me quote what a friend of mine said. If you have to say you're something, you're not. If you have to say that you are gay, you are not. If you have to say that you are a pansexual demi-construct living in meat space, you are not. Sony doesn't stand alone in this. Microsoft, with its Xbox, also used one of its biggest titles this year, Gears 5, to make a statement. For the first time in the franchise, the lead character will be a woman, the ferocious Kate. And is that making a statement? I just felt that the story that they were trying to tell worked best with a female lead. It didn't seem weird to me. It didn't seem like a statement. It felt natural in a way to pivot the franchise a little bit, said developer Rod Ferguson speaking to Wired magazine, and allow you to actually play the true hero of the story. Well, it sounds to me like they're telling the story in the best way possible. And if the best way possible is a female lead, then that's what they're going to do. If the best way possible is a male lead, then that's what they're going to do. Predictably, the decision raised some ire from certain corners of the gaming community. Did it? Did it? It's amazing that Microsoft and the Coalition decided to take the most testosterone-driven, male-centric third-person shooter brand on the market and still find some way to inject it with third-wave feminism, wrote the One Angry Gamer blog, decrying the diversity agenda in games. Okay, a quick one. One Angry Gamer. You're a good guy and everything, but I don't think Gears 5 is injecting a third-wave feminism diversity agenda. If you watched that Gears 5 trailer and you thought it was pushing a feminist diversity agenda, that's entirely on you. I'm not going to call you a bigot like the alt-left would. I'm just going to say watch that trailer again. One Angry Gamer. Take another look at it and see if you still get third-wave feminism diversity agenda vibes, because I certainly don't. We're in 2018. We're in 2018. That's one of my favorite fallacies is the current year argument, the current year fallacy. I never ever buy the current year fallacy. It's 2018, we should be... No. I never buy that. That's no different than no true Scotsman would wear sandals with a kilt. You know, it's... Don't buy that shit. We're in 2018. Across town at an event hosted by EA, there's a line of people baking under the LA sun in the hope of getting a chance to play Battlefield 5. For the first time, players will be able to play as a woman in that. Good. When the news of the new game was published online, a backlash ensued, with some fans left incensed that adding women into the game would not be historically accurate. A hashtag #NotMyBattlefield was born. Here's the thing. The same goes with the alt-left as it does with the alt-right. The loudest voices come from the smallest group of people. Battlefield 5 will still sell copies. Battlefield 5 will still sell a lot of copies. Just because a reasonable-sized number of people are complaining does not mean the game should be changed to suit them. And I'm sure you agree with me. So on the same token, the same reasonably sized number of people, but on the other side, who are complaining that games need more representation, games aren't going to be changed for them either. The makers of the game were pretty unequivocal in their response. We don't care what they think. I think there's a part of the community that believes that the game has been about historical accuracy, but it has never been about that, says Oscar Gabrielson, general manager at game studio DICE, speaking to my colleague Cody Godwin. Name drops. It doesn't matter what Oscar Gabrielson, general manager at DICE, says. Up until now, Battlefield has always been historically accurate. It is still important that we have this conversation. It's a bit disheartening that we're in 2018, current year fallacy, we're in 2018 and we have this kind of conversation about females in games. It's not a conversation about females in games. I don't understand it. What does having a fucking vagina change? Nothing. It changes nothing. Christ alive. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. We're not having a conversation about females in games. We're having a conversation about a game series that up until now was historically accurate, and now the manager who all of a sudden got woke is saying, oh, there should be more women in games. Whatever. Look, the game will still sell, it will be lauded as a victory. That's fine. Have your little victory. The threat of boycotts is not of concern, Mr. Gabrielson told me later. The gaming industry with its more than 2 billion players is big enough to handle an online campaign calling for the game to be avoided. Yeah, that's literally just what I said. The game will still sell. At this point, I just wish to interject with something I thought of while I was editing. This exact thing happened with Tomodachi Life, if you remember. The game had a bug that allowed gay marriages in the game, and Nintendo removed it, and the social justice crowd got very upset at the fact that these gay marriages were removed from the game. Now, if you remember then, there was a boycott of Tomodachi Life. And did it affect game sales? By fucking Jove, did it not. If anything, this just goes to show that both sides have this ridiculous notion regarding boycotting games. That it isn't a thing exclusive to the man-babies who, oh god, my game is not historically accurate. It is the same thing we saw with Tomodachi Life. Oh, they removed gay marriages. The calamity. I just want to draw the connection, because it did just occur to me in post. Among those lining up to play the game, we see no signs of the discontent that had been expressed online. Just play it and suck it up, suggested one young woman. Okay. I will assume that that happened because it's impossible to prove that you spoke to a person in the line. But did you speak to some guys as well? Did you speak to some of the people who were in the queue who were a bit bothered about the historical inaccuracies? Or are you cherry-picking the one that suits your narrative? No matter where you come from. On the E3 show floor, the only women I see in skimpy outfits are fans who have decided to dress as characters, not models paid to attract men to a booth. That's a good thing. I do agree, booth babes had their time, they're gone. I agree with you on that one. Opening this show up to the general public, as they did for the first time last year, has made the clientele at E3 look more like the gaming community in the US, where women make up 45% of players. Yeah, Yeah, and it's good. It's good. Yeah, it's good. 45% of players. It's fantastic. It's great news. And 50% of the games shown this year at E3 allowed you to pick whether you played as a man or a woman. So those 45% of players are covered by half of the games featured at E3 this year. And you're telling me that's not enough? Oh no, it's never enough. Female leads are everywhere on the show floor this year, including the original female lead Tomb Raider's Lara Croft, who has been far more realistically proportioned of late, and far more unrealistically actioned of late. The leaps and bounds that Lara Croft can perform are far more unrealistic than anything featured in the original trilogy. Did you see that Arkham Asylum shit she was pulling off in the Sony presentation? Stringing people up and sliding down vines and... unrealistic, but hey, so long as she's realistically proportioned, it doesn't matter if she can perform unrealistic things. The new title is playable here, and as you load up the game, the developers display a short passage of text. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was created by a diverse and talented team comprised of multiple genders, backgrounds, ethnicities, religious beliefs, and personalities, it reads. No matter where you come from or who you are, allow us to be the first to say, welcome to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Okay, so they did the exact same thing Assassin's Creed did back when it launched in like 2007 or 8? How the fuck is this new? How the fuck is this important? How the fuck is this relevant to your article? You're just flowering it up. Beyond tokenism. 4 years ago, the games industry was at a crossroads. It could have doubled down on what it knew best. Macho tough guys blasting the heck out of each other, avoiding threats of boycott and accusations of giving into the social justice warriors. It could have, and it probably would have been better off. But give it time. As your friend said, Mr. Davely, give it time. Things may change. This wind that you're talking about now, sweeping into the game industry, might be but only a passing breeze. We don't know what the future holds. But instead it took a path that has led to where we are today, with bold moves to add strong female characters front and center in the lineup, which is good. Even Assassin's Creed, which had that foul up in 2014, has made amends. You can now choose to play as a man or woman from the outset, which is good. I think I like your angle in a way, Mr. Lee, because you're not taking the stance Feminist Frequency did, where being able to choose to be a man or woman isn't good enough. At least you understand how important the choice of being a man or woman is in video games, so I will give you credit on that one. What's of note here is that these games have moved beyond tokenism, including something just to appease people, a token character. I understand the logic, but tokenism just sounds like a fucking stupid word to me. Again, because of the ism. With publishers instead taking the view that angering a small section of the gaming community is a price worth paying in order to better reflect the rest. If that's the angle you take, I don't think they're looking at it going, well, it doesn't bother if we piss those people off because we represent more people. I think they're just aiming to represent more people. Checking in with what's left of the Gamergate movements these days finds little discussion about ethics in games journalism. Deepfreeze.it. Deepfreeze.it, Mr. Davely, if you want to see where the discussion of Gamergate still is and how much it still retains its view of ethics in games journalism. Deepfreeze.it, Mr. Lee. As I type this, topics on one of the movement's most popular forums, which one, revolves around anger over the imprisonment of far-right figure Tommy Robinson, female Wikipedia editors, and how the left has supposedly infiltrated the games industry and by extension everything else too. What were once referred to as the thinly veiled elements of Gamergate are now fully visible. It's not that Gamergate has gone, it's that the focus has changed somewhat. The people who I assume you're referring to Kotaku in action, because you don't actually want to name the forum, because God forbid you give them any traffic, Mr. Lee. But you're probably referring to Kotaku in action. I think a long time ago, Kotaku in action forgot what was the proper approach of Gamergate. Through endless whittling down by articles hurtful articles like yours that refer to us as bigots. It's hurtful. It's absolutely hurtful. But it no longer matters. As I leave Los Angeles with another E3 behind us, it's clear that the Gamergate way of thinking has lost. The industry has stepped up, and video games will be all better for it. The Gamergate way of thinking. Do you know what you sound like? And I'm gonna get accused of using fallacies myself. But the Gamergate way of thinking sounds to me like how the Nazis would have said the Jewish way of thinking. Or how white supremacists would say the black way of thinking. I wanted to point out this article by Dave Lee because, as license fee payers, you have a right to journalism that is without bias. You have a right to a BBC that is without bias. But all I have seen time and time again is a BBC with bias. A BBC that has become The Guardian. I will be leaving a link in the description of this video to an archived version of the BBC article and the complaints page of the BBC website, should you feel, as I do, that this article comes from a place of shit-tier journalism and political bias, that you have a right to complain. Whether you do is up to you. This is not a call to arms. I'm not standing here telling you you have to do this. I just want to make sure that if you are as upset with this article as I am, that you know where to go to lodge a formal complaint. This is not a news article, and yet it is under news and technology news. I think that says it all. If it was titled Op-Ed at E3 Video Gaming's Bigots Have Lost, I wouldn't have done a video on it. Because I would have been like, oh, opinion piece. He's allowed his opinion, so be it. But this is being passed off as news. And in this news, there are lies and untruths being passed off. I think it will be a long time before the truth about Gamergate and the truth about what happened in those 4 years comes to light. But it will be too late when that happens. The people who made themselves victims in that time and became incredibly rich from doing so are going to have a chokehold on the industry for a while. Feminist frequency, born out of a perceived victimhood during Gamergate, has materials being used in school classrooms. The problem runs deeper and deeper and deeper than we realize. That's a topic for another time, should this video have any degree of success. I'm throwing this out here now under fear that this is going to mean the end of my YouTube channel. But I think it's important that the other side of the argument is represented, especially when gamers are being labeled hurtful things like bigots and sexists by an article that is supposed to be news, from a news source that is supposed to be unbiased. But that's just my opinion. What's yours?